What happens when a Hollywood star turned royal sits across from one of America's most beloved talk show hosts? Only for the conversation to unravel into one of the most shocking clashes daytime television has ever seen. The Jennifer Hudson Show had built its reputation on warmth, compassion, and authenticity. But on this day, viewers around the world witnessed something entirely different. What began as a friendly, harmless interview with Meghan Markle quickly spiraled into a storm of tension, ego, and unfiltered emotion, culminating in a dramatic breakdown no one in the studio could have predicted. This wasn't just another celebrity chat. This was the day the Duchess met her match. The studio buzzed with anticipation as producers moved briskly around the set, headsets crackling with last-minute instructions, while the audience sat ready with glowing applause signs in hand. There was always a warmth on Jennifer's stage. But today, something felt heavier. Jennifer Hudson emerged from backstage to her signature applause, dazzling in an emerald dress shimmering under the lights, smiling wide and waving as her energy filled the room. She welcomed the audience back and introduced her guest as a philanthropist, a mother, and a public figure unafraid to speak her truth. The applause that followed was polite rather than explosive as Meghan stepped onto the stage with perfect posture and chin held high, offering a faint smile that never fully softened. Jennifer greeted her warmly and the two settled into their seats, Jennifer glowing on camera while Meghan adjusted her blazer with practiced poise. Jennifer opened with her trademark warmth, asking how Meghan had adjusted to life in the United States after London. But Meghan's expression shifted instantly, her smile thinning as she asked whether that was a way of implying she hadn't been welcome there. The audience chuckled awkwardly as Jennifer clarified she meant the cultural change. But Meghan coolly replied that life itself was a cultural shift, and she didn't define herself by geography or approval. Jennifer nodded carefully, explaining, "Viewers were curious about the transition," only for Meghan to dismiss the idea entirely, saying she never worried about what people thought because it was exhausting. The tension was faint, but unmistakable. Jennifer pressed on, asking about Meghan's personal life and marriage to Prince Harry, prompting Meghan to bristle again, declaring their marriage wonderful but criticizing public obsession with rumors, and questioning why Jennifer would even ask. Jennifer tried to soften the moment, explaining the audience's interest in family life. But Meghan leaned back rigidly, insisting people stop reading baseless headlines. A murmur spread through the studio. Jennifer respectfully acknowledged her boundaries and shifted to Meghan's career, asking what she missed about acting, only for Meghan to respond bluntly that she missed nothing and that acting was merely a stepping stone before her life truly mattered. Jennifer recovered gracefully, saying fans loved her work. But Meghan dismissed that too, stating she had outgrown that chapter. The atmosphere grew heavier as Jennifer asked about Meghan's foundation and legacy. And Meghan framed herself as a force challenging outdated systems, dismissing critics and institutions alike. The audience exchanged uneasy glances as the warmth drained from the room. What started as a celebratory interview had turned into a tense standoff, leaving everyone watching both in the studio and around the world waiting to see just how far this confrontation would go. Jennifer's warmth remained steady, but the edges of her patience were beginning to show as she pressed forward carefully and shifted the conversation toward Meghan's foundation, asking what kind of legacy she hoped to build. Meghan Markle responded with a sharpened smile and a lofty tone, saying legacy was about more than ribbon cutting or smiling for cameras, insisting it meant redefining what truly mattered. She added that many people, institutions, the media, and even entire nations were uncomfortable with her because she refused to play by outdated rules, continuing uninterrupted to say that if some people couldn't handle that, it wasn't her problem. The audience exchanged uneasy glances, realizing this was not the uplifting interview they had expected. Jennifer Hudson shifted slightly in her chair, nodding as she recalibrated. then laughed lightly with a trace of steel in her voice, and remarked that Meghan certainly didn't hold back. Meghan smirked, lifting her chin and asking why she should. The camera swept across the silent audience, capturing stunned expressions. While somewhere in the control room, a producer silently mouthed that things were about to get interesting. When the show returned from a short commercial break, the energy in the room had clearly changed. The audience leaned forward, tense and alert, no longer relaxed. Jennifer's radiant smile held steady as the cameras zoomed in again, though her eyes carried a flicker of determination. Aware that despite interviewing countless celebrities and public figures, Meghan presented a unique challenge. Jennifer welcomed viewers back, reintroducing Meghan as the Duchess of Sussex, a philanthropist and advocate for mental health and equality, thanking her again for being there. Meghan crossed her legs, her posture regal and commanding, saying it was important for people to hear the truth unfiltered. Jennifer nodded and moved to a simpler topic, asking how it felt to build a life in America after so much time in the UK, though the question was warm and neutral. Meghan stiffened instantly and fired back, asking if Jennifer was implying she hadn't been accepted in England. The audience gasped softly as Jennifer recovered quickly, explaining she was simply asking about the contrast and that many people were curious. Meghan interrupted, her voice rising as she said she had heard those digs before, claims suggesting she left because she didn't fit in, insisting instead that she chose a better life for her family and that choice represented freedom, not failure. Jennifer maintained her smile, though it now felt tighter, gently acknowledging that many people admired her courage. Polite applause followed, but the unease remained. Jennifer carefully pivoted again, asking about life with Prince Harry and how Meghan balanced a high-profile marriage with family life. Meghan laughed coldly, dismissing the question as gossip and endless speculation, saying she expected better than tabloid-style curiosity, asserting that she and Harry were more than fine, deeply in love, raising two beautiful children, and that, unlike outsiders, they knew the truth. For the first time, Jennifer's smile faltered as she softly but firmly clarified she wasn't asking about gossip, only Meghan's personal experience. Meghan leaned back, folded her arms, and declared her experience was private, saying not everything needed to be dissected simply because people felt entitled to her life story. A murmur spread through the studio as Jennifer drew a slow breath and centered herself, then calmly suggested moving to another topic. She noted that many viewers admired how Meghan had spoken openly about her time in the royal family and asked what she had learned since stepping away from that role. Meghan's jaw tightened, irritation flashing across her face as she responded with disdain, saying titles and institutions were meaningless if they didn't serve humanity, dismissing expectations of gratitude and claiming she had outgrown that world and moved on, suggesting everyone else should too. A hush fell over the studio as Jennifer sat poised but visibly strained, then carefully asked whether being part of that institution had provided a platform that amplified Meghan's voice and if she felt any gratitude for it. Meghan cut in sharply, questioning why she should be grateful for being silenced or endlessly scrutinized, calling gratitude a weapon used to keep people compliant and insisting she had built her own platform and owed nothing to anyone. Gasps rippled through the audience as Jennifer leaned forward, her calm facade cracking slightly, her voice firmer as she pivoted once again, mentioning chatter surrounding Meghan's projects with Netflix and reports suggesting she had asked for higher pay for the next season. Jennifer asked whether there was any truth to reports about a higher pay request for the next season, and Meghan Markle snapped her head toward her, her tone suddenly venomous as she demanded whether Jennifer truly believed she sat around negotiating gossip with tabloids. She insisted that Netflix recognized her value and that if people chose to frame ambition as greed, that was their problem, not hers, adding sharply that she expected better from Jennifer than repeating baseless rumors. Jennifer Hudson inhaled sharply, her smile still in place, but her voice carrying unmistakable steel as she clarified she wasn't quoting tabloids at all, only asking Meghan directly and giving her the opportunity to set the record straight. Meghan scoffed audibly and leaned back in her chair, declaring that she owed no one an explanation for how she negotiated her worth, least of all the audience. The room fell silent as, for the first time in her career as a host, Jennifer's familiar warmth was overtaken by something firmer and more resolute. She adjusted her posture, her smile fading as she remarked slowly that it was certainly one way to put it, prompting uneasy laughter from the audience as they sensed the battle lines being drawn. Meghan's jaw tightened, her eyes daring Jennifer to push further, and Jennifer, after years of grace and restraint, looked as though she might. The studio lights seemed harsher as the tension thickened, with Meghan sitting rigid, arms folded tightly across her chest, eyes hard and lips pressed into a thin line, while Jennifer leaned forward, hands clasped, her expression calm but steely, like a singer preparing to strike a shattering note. Jennifer asked Meghan to take a step back, noting that people had followed her journey from Hollywood to the palace to her current life, hearing her story across documentaries, interviews, and books, yet some felt the narrative kept shifting. And she asked what Meghan would say to those who believed her story had changed over time. The audience leaned in as Meghan tilted her head dismissively and replied that those people were too invested in dissecting her instead of seeing the bigger picture, insisting she owed no one consistency when her lived experience had been complex, and suggesting that anyone wanting a neat story should watch a fairy tale instead of her life. Gasps rippled through the room as Jennifer raised her eyebrows, her patience thinning, and calmly pointed out that people were confused because Meghan had said one thing in one interview and another later. Meghan cut her off sharply, accusing Jennifer of calling her a liar. But Jennifer held firm, explaining she had said confused, not lying, and that, since Meghan was sitting on her show, it was fair to ask what was real and what wasn't. The warmth drained completely from Meghan's face as she leaned forward and spoke sharply, saying that living under constant attack from the press, institutions, and critics taught her that truth wasn't about Meghan, that no one was reducing her, and that she was doing that herself by snapping at every question and turning every attempt at connection into an attack, stating plainly that this wasn't strength but arrogance. The audience gasped as Meghan's composure visibly cracked, her hands gripping the armrest while she hissed that standing up for herself wasn't arrogance, and accused Jennifer of pretending to understand a life she had never lived. Jennifer's gaze didn't waver as she fired back that what was truly arrogant was believing that marrying into a family with titles placed someone above being questioned like everyone else. The words landed like a thunderclap as Meghan's mouth opened and closed, her eyes burning not with humility, but with fury that had nowhere left to go. While the audience sat in suffocating silence and Jennifer leaned back, folding her arms as the tension hung heavy in the air.